How are you, folks? And welcome to All for United. I am your host, Joe O'Neill. Thank you so much for joining us here on this Monday evening for you, Monday afternoon for the rest of us, as this is being, I guess, recorded in a time machine as I'm recording this from the past. But for me, it is the present. It is the magic of the internet. We're here to discuss everything that has happened in this most recent weekend. Was there any sackings? Yes, there was. Does that kind of make us talking about the Man United Watford game pointless? Kind of. But we're going to talk about it anyway because we're Man United fans. We love to be miserable. Other people that love to be miserable are Everton fans. And I have one of the top Everton fans plus Irish fans on this channel, wonderful Paul Neeland from the Irish Football Fan TV, who has been joined by a couple of regulars, Stuart Woolley and Keane Franny. I have definitely said their names wrong. They have confusing second names. All three of them actually have awkward second names, so allow them to introduce their second names only when they're on live. But wherever you are, please get into the YouTube chat. Please subscribe to the channel, like the videos, get the word out there. This is going to be an interesting time because last weekend was a very, very interesting bunch of games where I think we found out a lot about the clubs and a lot about the players that play for those clubs. So get your thoughts in the comments. Of course, they won't be put up live now, but they will. You can have discussions in the comments on the actual YouTube link. So do that, subscribe to the channel, like the channel. There's an intro coming, and then it'll be 4 miserable people to discuss miserable football afterwards. Thank you so much. See you in about 15 seconds.
Click subscribe to get daily Manchester United content from Passionate Reds, only on All for United.
Hello, and I'm back as promised, and I'm back with some wonderful Manchester United and Everton fans, and we are here to discuss the weekend that was, where there has been a lot of changes that happened weeks leading up to it, and a lot of changes that happened since, mainly one big change, which has kind of changed the face of one of the biggest football clubs in the world. So we will be discussing the game, but it's going to be very hard to discuss it since, like I said in the intro, does it really matter? Have we learned anything from this game? I'm going to go to you first, Keane. It was miserable. It was embarrassing, but some people will say we got the result we wanted in that Ole is gone. Do you think that would have happened no matter what the result, or do you think just seeing how dire it was suddenly just changed everyone's mind, or was this just the end of it no matter what?
Yeah, I think if you look at the manner of the defeat 4-1 against Watford, I think that's he had to go at that point. He had to go because, look, we all seen it coming after Liverpool and City, really and truly probably should have went before the international break. But ultimately, I think the manner of defeat against Watford kind of cemented the fact that he was going to go at that point. And the manner of the defeat, the manner of kind of performances and the overall energy of that game, just, I think you could see at that point why Ollie went. And I'm really sad, not going to be lie. It feels like almost losing a family member with Ollie leaving. Not going to lie, I've just been backing him the whole way through his tenure, but it's like anything. There's like even a relationship. You might love the person, but it's time to go. And unfortunately, that's the way it was with Ollie. But for Joe, best of luck to him in his future job, whatever he does after this. And look, whoever comes in now to the Manchester United job, look, we'll back him to the last.
So, Keane, was there anything, was literally the performance, was at the end of it? Was there anything in that performance that gave you any sense of hope whatsoever? Or was it just the kind of I wouldn't even say the straw that broke the camel's back. Was it just like the shotgun that put the horse down?
Yeah, it was the shot that put the horse down. Like, literally, that's the way it was. Like, no disrespect to Watford whatsoever, but that team Manchester United put out Saturday should be beating them 9 times out of 10 or 10 times out of 10. And it's just a case that it looks like he kind of lost the players. They weren't running that extra mile from that they were, previously under him. Like, if you look at Ollie's tenure, you look how anytime his back's been against the wall, the players would run through walls for him. So to get the results for him, to ultimately keep him in his job. But I think if you looked at the most recent performances, that same desire and work rate hasn't been there. And I think when you look at that now, that's ultimately been a killer. And he's just gone now at this point. And again, when this new manager comes in, there's a lot that needs to be done in terms of picking their best players, finding a system and stuff like that. And hopefully this new manager that comes in has a philosophy that can help our players and be best suited to our players. But yes, Ollie is held accountable, but I think some of these players have to be held accountable as well for some of the performances as of late.
Yeah, very well said. Stu, I want to come to you, obviously, next on this, and obviously, like you were saying on Uncut last night, you had a few things to say. So there's only kind of one way to continue with this, and it is just to basically discuss the tenure of Ollie. Do you think this result is really the best way for him to go out? Was there any sort of cathartic release from you for the fact that we lost that way, but at least there's definitely a change of manager? Was there any sort of relief for you in that, or has it been a miserable 48 hours?
Well, yeah, it's definitely been a miserable 48 hours. I mean, I was one of the lucky ones in '99 where I was in Barcelona when Ollie probably gave me one of the finest moments in supporting Manchester United. It was brilliant. And the guy's been associated with the club for 18 years now. So I think from my perspective, the way that he's been treated by our fan base, which I don't want to go into again, what I went into last night, because I just carried on ranting and raving. But it's just not good enough. And there's a section of our fan base that just don't understand what it means to support a football club, certainly a football club of Manchester United's stature. But I'm a legacy fan anyway. So I've been through the ups and downs for many a year. And Fergie gave me a lot of pleasure and a lot of relief in terms of what he was able to do with the side and do with the club. But it was never going to be replicated. It's almost impossible to replicate a manager of Sir Alex's stature and the tenure that he produced in terms of trophy winning. I think I haven't done the math on it, but I think he probably won 70% maybe. 72% of the entire trophies the club has ever won. And don't forget, we've only had 3 managers that won the title, First Division, in the history of the club. So, you know, if fans look at their history, they'll understand the trajectory the club goes on. It's just a simple evolution in football anyway. But I've been calling for months, and Keane will know this, I've been saying for months that player responsibility gets completely overshadowed. Every time a team has a bad performance or goes on a run of bad performance, it's always the manager and the coaches that come into the flak. And the players, for whatever reason, seem to escape it. Now, it's only just recently that fans have kind of put their eyes on players and realise that the players have got to take the responsibility for it, because the bottom line is when they cross the line, or as a footballer, when you cross that line, it's down to you to affect the game in the best way possible. And unfortunately, these guys weren't, for whatever reason. And it's unacceptable when you're pulling on the shirt of Manchester United that you don't try. You know, football matches aren't won in a classroom. They're not won on a Twitter feed. They're not won on a presentation or a laptop. They're won by sheer will determination of the players that take that pitch and a real want to win the game of football. And we didn't see that against Watford. And I kind of felt, coming back to your question, I felt a relief for Ollie, actually, more than anything, that his tenure was over, because we all knew that it was unsurvivable, the Watford match. But I've said again, and I'll keep repeating it, when you get a group of guys who potentially don't have any, I mean, I don't like the phrase superstars anyway, I think it's a load of bollocks, but what you would deem to be top end players, you can just come together as a collective group and you can be stubborn, rugged, and that's what Watford were. And it made most of our team. There was a couple of notable differences. Donny van der Beek, when he came on, for example, looked pretty, pretty substantial. Yeah, he did. Yeah, and that's how we've been. So there is a couple of changes I think the new manager should do. There is a few issues and reasons why I think we've gone on this bad run of form this season, which people disagree with me, but they don't tend to look at it from the bigger picture. But yeah, so from my point of view, and I'll stop rambling now, because I just think that the relief for him and his family, I think, is probably the right move.
Yeah, for me,
pleasure to be on a show from the Emerald Isle.
It's great to have you, Stu. It's great to have you. The only Englishman I'll say that to. But I agree with what you're saying there, and it seemed to be, for sacking, it's so rare to have like such an outcry of sort of positivity towards the person being sacked. Because usually this is a time where not like I don't listen to the footballers. The footballers say I did like Bruno saying no, blame the players. I thought that was genuine. But Instagram posts and all like that, it's just them saving. I don't think that for players, whenever they put out Instagram posts saying like my boss, whatever, I'm like, whatever. It means nothing to me. Your agent did that, or your whoever marketing team did that. But for Twitter, which can be as toxic as we all know it can be, to kind of have a general sense of being like, thanks for trying your best. And people kind of respecting that. I really like to see that.
You are right, but there was an air of hypocrisy about most of those. Thank you.
That's true.
Because 2 days, 3 days ago, or 6 weeks ago, they were telling him, Ollie, you're clueless. You're this.
Yeah.
So the element of hypocrisy as well, and this is the problem with. I don't know. Look, I'm not going to get into it, but that's the issue with it.
Don't worry. I'm sure we'll be coming back around again in United. We have a bit more time, so
Yes.
hopefully we can hold on to you. But Paul, the wonderful Paul from Irish Football Fan TV, thank you so much. It's great to have you on this channel finally. And you are an Everton fan, so it'll be interesting to see. My question for you is, from the outside looking in, because we've kind of known, I think over the last couple of weeks, mainly all Man United fans, especially Liverpool game, that's when 100% of us were like, well, this is done now. Beginning of the season, I think it was a 50-50. Some wanted him to stay. Some were like, give him the best chance possible. We had a good transfer window. But for you, Paul, looking at this, like I said, as an Everton fan, was this inevitable from word go? Was there any point where you were like, he's building a side we can fear? I know one of his biggest and most embarrassing defeats was a 4-0 at Goodison Park, which I'm sure you enjoyed a lot more than we did. But was there any point where you thought this man could do something special with United, or for you, was it just inevitable?
Sorry, I wasn't sure if I was on mute or not there. I don't know, with Solskjaer, it's, for me, from the outside looking in, as you said, I've always seen Man United fans as spoiled from the time I was growing up. Stu touched on the night when he's won the Champions League against Bayern Munich and Solskjaer scoring the goal. I was only getting into football at that stage, so as far as I remember, Man United were always winning things up until when Ferguson left. And, part of me is just kind of like, looking at it, it just reminds me of Liverpool when they stopped winning things, stopped winning the Premier League mainly. But that seems to be where you're at the minute. And it's like, no matter who you seem to bring in or who you seem to sign, you just keep seeming to fall short. Other teams are getting better, adding better players around them. I did think at the start of this season, having a good January last year, getting Bruno in, I thought he was a brilliant signing. And then adding with him, you had Ronaldo, you had Varane, you had Sancho, Van de Beek, all these players who would probably get into any other team, probably from, I don't know, probably outside of Manchester United, Man City, Chelsea, Liverpool. They probably get into any other team, and some of them probably would get into those teams as well. So it's not as if he hasn't had players that were good enough to go into any other teams, but as Roy Keane did say, it's the same crop of players that keep letting the managers down. And it's similar with Everton. Every time a new manager comes in, at some point those players keep letting them down as well. And I see, obviously not to the scale of Manchester United. Everton aren't obviously near them at the moment, but I see a lot of similarities there since David Moyes left. Everton can't really seem to get any sort of consistency to even try and finish in the European places, whereas obviously under Moyes it was a regular top six finish most seasons. Towards probably the end, then it kind of fizzled out. But I look at that without bringing Everton into it. I would rather have a Moyes built side compared to what we have with Rafa at the moment, and I'm sure you are the same with Ollie. But look, it was a nice way to kind of bow out in terms of the video and stuff yesterday. But once I heard the scoreline, I was actually playing 2 matches on Saturday, and once I heard after. Well, one was a charity game, so not really. But when I saw the scoreline of the Watford game, I was thinking, yeah, he has to go, because every other time he just seemed to be bailed out by a last minute equaliser or a last minute winner, usually by Ronaldo, and it was okay, he's escaped for another couple of weeks until the inevitable. It was always going to be inevitable that he was going to be sacked. I think everyone would agree on that, and that's I don't know. Look, I think anyone going into that job right now would struggle unless you were to get a Klopp or a Guardiola or a Tuchel. I think any other manager would struggle. I think even if you get Zidane or whoever comes in there, I think they're going to struggle regardless. Now, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about Zidane because he did go and win 3 Champions Leagues. So, and if he didn't win them, he probably would have been sacked. So. Zidane's one of my favourite players of all times as well, but as a manager, I would like to see how he would get on at a different club other than Real Madrid, but I think it'll be a huge test for him. I know Pochettino's quite heavily linked as well, so
we'll see what happens. But Paul, there's something I want to ask you as well. Like, obviously, we kind of the start of the downfall, we'll say, was the draw against Everton at home. Going into that game, were you anticipating that you'd lose that? I know you're not the biggest fan of Rafa, so I don't know if you remember what your mindset was.
I don't mind him. I don't mind Rafa.
But you haven't been on the best run so far. But like at that game, were you anticipating that you could get something here? Were you shocked by a draw? Did you think you could have won it from that game, from what you can remember?
No, I think we were coming in from a good bit of form from then. We've had a lot of injuries since then. People seem to forget that. People just look at results and don't actually take any logic. And I'm sure Man United fans are the same. Right? Yeah. People off this channel, whatever. There's no logic, and I've seen your tweets and stuff like that. Like even since last year, and people were just hammering home, even when you were getting good results. Everton were doing well. Tom Townsend and Gray were doing really, really well. Obviously, Townsend scored that day. We were actually coming in off a good bit of form. We fancied our chances pretty much against anyone at that point because we've been on a good run of scoring form and so on. We're obviously suffering now without Decore in the team, without Calvert-Lewin in the team, and without Yerry Mina. And when you take this point out of any team, you're going to struggle. And that's just how we are. But we had them in the team then, and I think once we have them, we fancy our chances against a lot of teams. I think we would have fancied our chances against City and other teams if those 3 are fit and available anyway. So it wasn't a case of maybe for you, you're looking at that going, that's a very winnable game. But I think Rafa was, it was going nicely for Rafa. We had a good bit of momentum starting the season off, and then it just kind of went from there. I know you look at it like a bad result. We were looking at it as a good result. Obviously we were 1-0 down, but we do tend to struggle against you, especially away from home. We do struggle. Obviously we only won that game with Oviedo, scored that goal in recent times. The rest of them have mainly been the draws or use win.
Yeah. I'm gonna keep going because I know Stu, you're on a bit of a timer here, so I just want to get your closing thoughts on the United Watford before we move on. I go to Keane next, and then we'll move on to the next game. But Stu, for you, can we take anything from this 4-1 loss? Have we learned anything we didn't already know? Is there anything that the next manager who's coming in, whoever that might be, can take that and then improve the squad? Or is this showing that we're really not at the level that we think we should be with the players we have?
Yeah, well, look, we're definitely not at the level, but the players have got to look at themselves for that, because you look at the type of players that we've got, and we should be winning games like Watford. But the problem is, and people always talk about confidence in footballers, and sometimes footballers out of form and stuff like that. But as a player, the only person that can get you back into form and can get your confidence growing is yourself. And if you can't do that, you can't get up for any game of football pulling on the shirt of Manchester United. You shouldn't be there anyway. Go and play Sunday League pub stuff if you fancy it. Have a fag at half time and a beer. You shouldn't be anywhere near the professional game. And these guys, and they can come out, by the way, and they can say, "Oh, it's our responsibility, etc." But nobody really believes them, because they never really hit the heights that we threatened last season. And Ollie's to blame for this, by the way, because he's made some radical changes within the team. Some were forced on him. Henderson, for example, with his hip injury. I think De Gea, as good as he's been this season, he's been our Achilles heel. He's very meek. He's very glued to his line. He's cost us more than a few goals by his inability or his fear to come for the ball. And I think it's had a bit of a knock-on effect with our centre halves, whoever the pairing has been. I know Maguire's not been his best. We know Shaw hasn't. Shaw looks a bit overweight to me. I'm not so sure the team's as fit as it should be. So there's a massive array of issues that we've got. But what we don't have is a player or two players that can grab the game by the scruff of the neck, that's got this doggedness about them, that can organise and get us going forward. When we get stuck in a rut during a match, our own player in-game management, forget about the sidelines, forget about Ollie and the coaches, our own player in-game management, for whatever reason, just isn't up to scratch. And, throughout the history of the club, we've had players that can take games single-handedly and galvanise the team, and we just don't have that. Ronaldo does it on the odd occasion. He scored a couple of goals, saved us in games, if one for the better phrase. I'm not a fan of saying that, because you have 11 players, and each one, has got their own parts to play. But I've said on many occasions, Joe, that our players just don't understand segmentation on a football pitch, and that's what I can't quite get my head around. We don't communicate enough, so our fullbacks don't communicate with our wide players. When Ollie plays this, I fucking hate the phrase double pivot, it winds me up. But two holding players, then you're not really playing 2 6s, you're playing 2 8s that are masquerading as 2 6s. And he should have changed it at the beginning of the season. He should have gone to a 4-3-3. He should have played a single holding player. He should have nailed his colours to the mast on one of them. I didn't rate any of them anyway. I don't rate McTominay, Fred or Matic, but one of them, we should have put them in. He should have made Bruno a bit more disciplined instead of playing the free so-called 10. He's always 10 or 15 yards too high up the pitch and turnover of play. So by the time that if Bruno does lose the ball for whatever reason, teams are counter-attacking us, and we've got way too much space for them to work in. So there's a variety of different things that they can do. But the thing about it is that Ollie should know better than me. I'm just a player and a fan who can see, that's all, and I've got ideas, but we're not there in training day in, day out. We don't know what's happened. I read a report today that somebody thought Van der Beek's mentality wasn't strong enough for the Premier League and things of that nature. So I think whoever comes in, I wouldn't hang my hat on anything this season, if I'm being honest. I think we need a clear out in the summer, clear out of the board in the summer. We need a football board put in place. We need football people that the manager can go and talk to, and then that football people can then go and talk to the commercial board. You've got to take Woodward, Arnold, you've got to get them away from the football side. Concentrate on making money for the club and the commercial success that they have done. But you need to get a mini football board in. You need 3 or 4 footballing people that can kind of reorganise the whole structure. It includes the women's, the under-23s, under-18s, absolutely everything. And then they can be the middleman between that and the board. So I think it's going to be very, very difficult, Joe. Sorry to be blunt.
I think there's more chance of me, having a threesome with Margot Robbie and Eva Mendes. But stranger thing can happen, and a joking dream. It is. But boys,
I do apologise. It was great to meet you, Paul. I hope to be on the show with you again, mate. And keen on see you soon anyway, when I pal.
Stu, always a pleasure leaving us on a downer. Thank you very much.
Sorry, guys. Thank you. Anyway,
see you soon. Thanks, Stu.
See you, mate. Nice to meet you.
You too. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Keen, just for the closing moments, closing thoughts on the United game. And Paul, I might get your thoughts on this as well, because De Gea was quite abrupt with his criticism in his post-match comments. I think it was interview. I don't know if it's on Sky Sports or who it was on. Someone could probably tell me, and please get these thoughts in the comments. If you're agreeing with us, if you're disagreeing with us, get into the YouTube comments. But he basically absolutely scathed the entire team that was in front of him, saying we don't know how to defend, we can't play the football, we can't do anything. I know this all means nothing again because we're post Ollie, but it is still a big thing that he came out and said. And just how do you think he'll be taken in by the players when they hear what? Well, I know it's already past that. They've already met him a few times since in training, but it can't be the easiest thing to hear from one of the players, one of your own players.
Definitely not. And to be fair, De Gea is one of the senior figures in the squad, so maybe he should choosing his words maybe a bit more wisely. But I can understand his point of view when, look, you're probably one of our best players this season, and you're back to your best. So he's been one of the leaders in the dressing room. But then, there's a way of conducting yourself, and maybe he could have been a bit more lighter with his comments. Now, as you said, Joe, like rightly so, because obviously the management's after changing now, and we're going to be going in a new direction. You'd like to think them comments kind of become irrelevant now almost. But look, I think with David De Gea, he's come in for a lot of criticism as well in this last 12, 18 months. And look, I'll be first one to say as well, like I thought he was done at the top level looking at last season, but this year he's really rejuvenated himself and looks like the David De Gea of old. But look, I just hope he can be that leadership figure. He's been at the club the longest out of all the players who are at the club now, minus Phil Jones. But just like in that regard, whoever comes in now, whether it's Pochettino, Ten Hag, Zidane, whoever it may be, he needs to stand up and be counted as a leader, David De Gea, along with other players in this squad, because there's a lot of players who are hiding in these last 6-7 weeks. And it's a time now where, yes, Ollie's taken the flak for the large part of it, and the part of it rightly so. But some of these players have hit, and they need to stand up and be counted, and show why you wear that badge of Manchester United. Because when you play for United, there's a certain obligation to show professionalism, to show passion, to do everything that's required to play in a Manchester United shirt. There's a way to carry yourself. And to be quite honest, Joe, there's a lot of players in the squad who haven't carried themselves with much pride in the last 2 months almost. So look, I think that this is where the players need to show who they are, because there's nowhere to hide now, because Ollie's not there to be their scapegoat anymore.
Yeah, strong words, Keenan. I can't disagree with any of it. We're going to keep going because obviously we are a Man United channel, so we're going to spend a lot of time talking about Man United. If anyone wants to talk about Queen as well, they're behind me, and I was trying to hide it with my head, but everyone sees I'm a Queen fan now. But we have to move on, and a big reason I want to bring Paul on is because Everton did play the current Premier League champions. Will they be Premier League champions at the end of the season? I hope not, but at least as long as it's not Liverpool, I'll be somewhat happy. But it was pretty much, I don't want to say a foregone conclusion that it was going to end that way before the game, but Paul, were you surprised at how City just nailed you? Like, it was incredible goals. I have to say, great goals, great play, and they really showed, like, when they're on their day, they are one of the best teams in the world. But like you said as well earlier on, like, people aren't taking into account the injuries the club have been dealing with. Plus, I don't know the last game you won. Was it against Norwich, I think? So it's been an interesting time for Everton recently. What are your thoughts on your 3-0 loss to City? And you're muted. Not anymore. No, you're mute.
Now I'm on mute. Yeah, I actually can't remember the last game we've won. That's how I feel at the moment. It's been like that, just with the injuries. I'm not going to criticise a manager when he hasn't had his best players at his disposal. I didn't do it with Stephen Kenny with Ireland. I'm not going to do it with Rafa Benitez at Everton. When he has had his players available, we have gotten results. I think things will pick up, but we are in danger with the players that we have at the moment, that we just look so lost for ideas. And anyone who watched that game yesterday, City are an absolutely unbelievable side. They weren't even playing with a striker yesterday, and we just looked so lost for ideas throughout the whole game. You had that young lad, Cole Palmer, made his debut. You had Phil Foden, who I thought was excellent. He actually made Coleman look like very amateur, in my opinion. I thought Sterling was always going to be a problem. He always is. And obviously they've got quality all over the pitch. I mean, we had Fabian Delph, who was replaced by Rodri, and we saw why he was replaced by him with that goal he scored. And obviously just even the way he was just dispossessing players, he has one job to do: win the ball back and lay it off. He did something extra obviously yesterday with that wonder strike, but fair play to him. But I just think with Everton at the moment, Tamari Gray went off injured, and we brought on Iwobi, who's probably the worst player I've ever seen in my life. I don't know what he does or what he brings to this team at all. Arsenal probably laughing at the amount of money we paid for him. As far as our defenders go, Godfrey looks like a shadow of the man he was a year ago under Ancelotti. I don't even think that's anything to do with Rafa. He just doesn't seem comfortable at centre back. I don't know what it is. Whereas obviously under Carlo, he was playing left back, right back, centre back, and he was doing well in all those positions. But the only person who's been covering himself in glory in recent weeks is Pickford. He hasn't been making many mistakes. His kicking wasn't great yesterday, but like in terms of his saves and stuff like that, he has been quite good. But overall, looking at it, like I can't wait to get Calvert-Lewin back. I can't wait to get Decore back. Yerry Mina, when he doesn't play, you notice it. And then like with Damari Gray, he obviously gives us that pace on the attack and he's direct. Whereas now we're going to be stuck with probably Iwobi, or else he's going to go with Anthony Gordon, who's young and raw, and he will be good, but he's just against Man City. He's not gonna be the one that wins you a game. He's not a Wayne Rooney type person. One that kid is going to come in and win you a game. I think he'll get gradually better under Rafa. Townsend's probably been our star player so far. He tried to make things happen yesterday, but there's just no quality up front with Richarlison. He's just getting frustrated because we were just sitting everyone behind the ball. So it's just very frustrating time at the moment being an Everton fan. But you do have to give a lot of credit to Manchester City because they are just a brilliantly coached team as well. It's not just a case of Everton are shit, which they are at the minute with the injuries. Man City did deserve the win. And when the first goal went in, I was kind of thinking it was a case. I think I put out a tweet and I said it wasn't a case of when, it was how many then when the first one went in. Yeah. I was surprised it was only 3. I thought we'd crumble, but in fairness, we stayed somewhat in the game for a while, but we never looked that threatening, But it was inevitable, as you said, a foregone conclusion that we were going to lose that game, especially with the injuries.
But Paul, I know there's a player you're a big fan of, so I need to get your thoughts on him, and maybe he would be useful now that you have this injury crisis, especially up front. But do you feel, and you said at the time that it's a massive oversight letting James Rodriguez go?
Yeah, I don't think he was ever going to fit into Rafa's plans, though, purely down to the fact he doesn't work hard. But you look at his goal contributions and everything he brought when he did play last year, he was ridiculous. Like he's for me the best player I've ever seen play for Everton, even though I haven't seen him live playing for Everton. But just in terms of that world class qualities that he brings, and as I said, he didn't play every game, but when he did play, he more often than not scored or assisted in games. Pretty sure he scored against Hughes, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. But he is just that one player. I think he liked being the player that was kind of getting us through games and doing well for us, But when he did play, he was the link to everything. But Rafa doesn't like that, and he was never going to get in and play under him. With Ancelotti, he had the luxuries; he could do whatever he wants. I mean, he was pissing off to the Copa America before the season had even ended yesterday. So a lot of Everton fans were doubting his commitment and stuff like that, and then he didn't even get into the squad, which is a bit of an egg on the face for him. So I don't know, like you say that and then you go, party goes fair play to Rafa for not putting up with any bullshit and doing that. So I think January is going to be big, and I think next summer is going to be big. I don't think Rafa will be coming in to get sacked. I think he'll be allowed to spend either in January or next summer, and then I will judge him. Kind of similar to Koeman when Koeman came in, and we waited for him to make the signings, and then he got us Europe, and then he was sacked the following season just because he was like freezing players like Ross Barkley and stuff out. But look, I like Rafa so far, but I can't give him criticism with the injuries he's had because they're our best players.
Yeah, and it seems kind of unfair as well if you're putting too much criticism on him, because he literally kind of got thrown into the job at the deep end, considering Carlo Ancelotti was just robbed from you, and then he was brought in not too long afterwards, and obviously having to create his own team with the players that are there, and you started off well, and there's going to be teething problems. So I think like you said, give him a proper window. January is hard to judge, but summer, I think it's going to be the big one for him as well. But I'll come to Keane now, because he's sitting there like a lovely good child. So what are your thoughts on? I'm not sure how much of the Everton game you saw against City, but is it a case of Everton lost it, or just City, no matter who they're playing, are just in that mood right now where they're going to annihilate anyone that comes in front of them that gives them a half an inch?
Yeah, look, Manchester City have been outstanding this season, like in terms of the way they control a game of football and how they just it makes it seem like they're they're just sucking the life out of the opposition team, how they retain possession of the ball. Like you mentioned Cancelo there earlier, and like Cancelo has been outstanding at fullback for him, whether it's on the right or the left. You have players like Phil Foden, who he's not a natural left winger, but when he's out there, like how he uses his space and how he kind of makes the pitch very wide, he's brilliant at it. And this is all Manchester City minus Kevin De Bruyne, and they're still controlling games. Like they're dictating it in the midfield, and they're creating a huge amount of chances. Like, and this is again a City team without a natural number 9 either. I think that's something that people are sleeping on, is they're not playing with a striker up front. Like, yes, they've Jesus, Foden, and Bernardo Silva, and players like that who are all hybrid in between the false 9 role. But this is them without Sergio Aguero. This is them without, minus Harry Kane, who they would have got in the summer. They are a fantastic team, as much as it pains you to say it. Like, even Ruben Diaz, like they've missed him as well, and he's been a fantastic defender for them in the last 12 months. But if I look at Everton, and you touched on it, like in terms of they've been very unlucky with injuries. Like, I know when they came to Old Trafford, like they had a number of players out for that game, and they gave us a very good game. And in the end, they could have came away with 3 points. Like, and obviously, when you're losing Calvert-Lewin, you're losing Richarlison for a certain amount of games, Decore and Allen, them missing games. Like, they're very important players, for Everton, for the way they play. And like, even like I look from our side, from a Man United point of view, they should be looking at either Donny van de Beek or Jesse Lingard in January for that number 10 role to replace James Rodriguez, because they're 2 very good players who definitely could fit into Everton's side, especially Lingard with that high energy and kind of his work rate in the Rafa Benitez system in that number 10 role. He could be that player for Rafa. But I look at Everton and say, when they get a fully fit team, they can definitely challenge top half the table and challenge European places, because Rafa Benitez is a very good manager, and he's, in terms of defensive structure, he'll have Everton resolute to a point where they'll be a hard team to beat. And if he can get his front 3 on 4 firing, then they will be a threat. It's just about getting the players fit, getting 1 or 2 heads in the door, and then Everton can go back challenging. Because like, when you look at teams who are in around that level at the moment, like let's say in around the top 6, top 7 level, you have teams like West Ham. So you have teams in there like Tottenham, Arsenal at the minute, who Everton, if they have a fully fit team, they can go out and compete with these teams. And if they have 1 or 2 players in the door. So at the moment, it mightn't be all doom and gloom because they've dropped a couple of points here and there. But, let Rafa have a transfer window. Let him get 1 or 2 players in, and let's see where it goes from there. Because, look, I think there was a lot of kind of division when he was appointed as Everton manager, but he deserves a fair crack at it, 100%.
Absolutely. Paul, I'm actually going to come to you on a point that Keane just said there. Before we move on to the final game we'll be looking in depthly in. Would you take a Jesse Lingard? Would you take a Donny van de Beek? Would you agree with what Keane's saying, that they're the sort of players you need, those high action, quick moving, fast paced players to get the ball moving on the Rafa system? Are they the sort of players you would like to see with Everton, or are you looking for a different caliber?
Well, I think with Van de Beek, he'll get a new kind of fresh start with the new manager, whoever comes in with Man United now. So I think he's kind of off he won't be on the list. I'd be surprised if he is. Well, I know he's been linked a good bit, and was linked in the last couple of days of the transfer window in the summer. But Lingard, not for me. Over the years, Everton have taken a lot of United players who were kind of not at their best, and they got a tune out of them. Got a final tune out of them. Players like Phil Neville and Darren Gibson, and I'll just spring to mind Tim Howard as well. It was actually a good servant. But for me, no. Like, people also forget, like, we know there's things going on with Sigurdsson as well. He's obviously out as well, as you got James as well. So that's 2 players in that position as well. So who've been taken out of there as well. So there's a lot going on at the minute. But in terms of the 2 you mentioned, it probably wouldn't. But I couldn't give out top of my head a player who I would like in that role. What I would like is a centre forward more so at this stage, because if Calvert-Lewin gets injured, there's no one that can come in there and Rondon. Just I think his best days are behind him. Unfortunately, he was a good player. I'd be surprised if he can get that form back. I think he's spent too long maybe in China now and he's getting on a bit. So look, he's a big rough powerhouse type thing, but if you want him to be doing the same job as what's that? I'll take my. Sorry, I was reading the comment there.
You lost
sorry,
your place there, yeah. Sorry,
Colossal.
Keane's after throwing Paul off his strike because he put into the private chat, take Martial off our hands. And I can see Paul was thinking, oh, no.
No, I actually thought that I had done something wrong. That's the way I was
No,
reading. I thought
you
I had
did
my hands
something
on
right. You did something right. You're doing great, Paul. Keep going.
No, but that's just how I feel. I just think a striker would be a better option for us. And Richarlison's not been good either. He obviously had that big long summer. He went to the Olympics and never really had a break. And I think that might be shown as well because he's just not really been shown a lot of form. Now, we have been playing a very negative style. And I noticed as well, he doesn't really let Luca Dean get forward anymore. He's been forced to defend, and when he's going forward, he creates and assists so much.
Yeah.
And we're really missing that at the minute as well, But we've no one to cross the ball into because if it's not Richarlison in the box, it's nobody. So
Luca Dean,
and he's booked and he's missed for the next game as well now.
Adina was always great for fantasy football under Ancelotti. You get you a good few points. And this season it's just been barren wasteland at Everton. But we better keep going, guys. Move past Everton to the worst part of Merseyside, which a club that no one wants to talk about, especially after they've just won 4-0, especially people at this three-way table. But I'll come to you first, Keane. It's hard to look past it that Liverpool were very impressive. We always say, albeit Arsenal, but we're albeit an Arsenal team that have been on a very, very good run recently. I think they had 24 points out of 30, the last 30 or something along those lines. Obviously, going to Anfield, it's always difficult. Liverpool off the back of a defeat against West Ham. Have to say it was a very impressive day for them, wasn't it? You're muted.
Yeah, 100%. I think you look at Liverpool's performance, they smothered Arsenal. They really forced a lot of mistakes out of them. We look at the way they pressed from the front, like Salah, Mane, Firmino. They've really done fantastic work in terms of forcing Arsenal to make mistakes, and just their overall creativity from their fullbacks and Tsimikas and Arnold. They were very good. Obviously, look, Arsenal have been on a great run, and look, it'd be interesting to see how they fare against us next week, and we could potentially have a new manager bounce. But yeah, look, Liverpool are playing well at the moment. Doesn't give me much joy to say that. But look, let's see where they are in January when their players have to go to the African Cup of Nations, and their squad that then will be tested when they lose the likes of Salah and Mane.
Oh, I forgot about the African Cup of Nations. Our saving grace every year because Liverpool have always had, unfortunately for everyone else, but they've always had a lot of good African players. But the great thing about them is that they fuck off in January every couple of years. So that's always something to do. Sorry for swearing, Ben, but it had to be said this time. Paul, for you, my man, where do you lie on Liverpool's title hopes after seeing them demolish Arsenal?
They remind me very much of how they did a couple of seasons back when they won the league. They're very dominant. They're obviously adding players in there like Minamino and stuff like that who they sent out on loan last year. He's came in, so I'd be wary of him. I know you're saying Mane hasn't been that good this year. Obviously Salah has, but I'd just be wary of Minamino coming in and maybe having an impact for that month. And then you have Mane coming back in to add to that. So I am very wary. Obviously, I don't want them to win the league or do well at all. But they do look pretty good at the minute. And it'd take a good team to beat them. I think them, City and Chelsea are the strongest teams. And it will be interesting to kind of see towards the end of the season who is kind of leading that race. But I mean, City, as I said, they're playing without a recognised striker. They're missing players like Ruben Diaz and Kevin De Bruyne, and they're still destroying teams like Everton, who were trying to be negative. So he had a player like Sterling as well coming in and scoring goals, who hadn't been playing that much as well on top of that. So with Liverpool, I think the only thing that might kill them is the strength and depth. But if they can keep the large part of their starting 11 fit and firing, they have a good chance.
Well, let's hope
they did
not.
A few years ago.
And let's hope not, because we're not talking about Liverpool in any positivity, considering we hate them and we're a United channel. So just for the last 5 minutes, I'm just going to rally out the results from the weekend that we haven't yet to touch on. And if anyone has a point they want to make on it, we'll absolutely touch on it. But of course, the big one is Chelsea hammering possible United manager Brendan Rodgers. Hope to God that isn't Man United manager. Newcastle, Brentford 3-0 in Eddie Howe's first game. Villa 1-2-0 in Stevie Slippy G's first game. Burnley, Crystal Palace, an astonishing 3-3 draw. Wolves beating West Ham, surprisingly 1-0. Norwich winning on Dean Smith's debut 2-1. And Spurs winning 2-1 in Conte's first home game. So a lot of changes and a lot of positive results for new managers. Is there any result there you want to touch upon? Any points you want to make before we wrap it up?
I think just quickly on Conte at Spurs, I think one thing you've seen yesterday was they had the typical Antonio Conte type of team in terms of resilience, in terms of drive to get the result at the end. They did show it in flashes yesterday. However, still at this moment in time, Spurs are still have their Achilles heel with the counter-attack. And I know I will have no affiliation to Leeds United, obviously being a Man United fan, but Daniel James is a nice guy, so it was good to see him get a goal yesterday.
Yeah, that's true. It was nice to see him score a goal. It's always nice. He's a nice young man. I was watching that game with Spurs fans actually in my pub in London. Gertie Brown's, check it out. And best pint of Guinness in London. Swear to God, Gertie Brown's, East Finchley. But I was watching with them, and they were quite pessimistic. There wasn't that much joy from the victory, but it was just the fact that they were playing well. They're apprehensively, but I can't imagine ever being excited when you're a Spurs fan. I think they're even miserable when they got their Champions League final because they knew they were going to lose to Liverpool. But Paul, for yourself, do you have any results you want to touch on before we call it a day?
Yeah, I think it's interesting with Norwich. Dean Smith seems adamant that he's going to keep them up. I'd like to see that. Obviously, they've got a good Irish contingent there with Alameda, Omobamidele, and that. So I'd like to see them stay up for them and maybe see them come in and play a strong sort of role in that. The one with Gerrard is interesting. It will be interesting to see how he gets on there, because if he does do well there, you know where he's going to go, and if he doesn't do well there, it'll be interesting to see where he does go. Probably back to that horrible club in Glasgow.
Yeah, Queen's Park.
And then other than that, the Spurs one, Conte was always going to get results, and I think you'll see a new manager bounce with them. I don't think they're going to be as world class as everybody thinks they're going to be. It'll be interesting to see where they finish up towards the end of the season. But for the moment, I think they're going to be good, and it'll be interesting to see who he adds in January. But the Newcastle one as well, because obviously Eddie Howe was at home for that one. Be interested to see how they get on now, because they've been at the bottom of the league now for a while. So the players, I think, that are better than the bottom of the league, that should start showing it, like Saint Maximum and that. They've got some decent players, but they just seem to be just shit at the minute. So I think with Eddie Howe come in, there's a new manager bounce. So there's a lot of clubs there with a new manager bounce. So it'll be interesting over the next kind of couple of weeks coming into December as well, with so many games coming thick and fast. Can teams keep up momentum, and will teams have squad depth? And hopefully Everton will have players back by then.
Yeah, and hopefully United kick on and win every trophy possible. We can dream. And I personally hope, if the Christmas gods are listening, that Newcastle get relegated, and Eddie Howe is shown to be the minutely average manager that he is. But we'll find that out all in due course. And thank you so much, everyone, for watching. Please, if you disagree with us, if you agree with us, get in the comments, share your thoughts. Share the video around, get as many views on it as possible. I want to thank Paul and Neelan so much. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. Terrific Everton fan, even better Irish fan, but all-round wonderful human being and presenter on Irish Football Fan TV. So make sure to check him out there and all the wonderful stuff he's doing there in promoting Irish football, Irish footballers, which is outstanding. And it's genuinely one of my favourite pages on Instagram to follow, and he updates me every time an Irish person scores, including Jason Knight, who scored for Derby in a 3-2 victory the other night. I just saw the video he posted there. It was great header. And of course, we're finished with an Irish contingent, which is the way this channel should always finish in. Keane, absolute legend as always. Thank you so much for being incredibly hungover. Where is the hot water bottle, by the way? He was running late because he has it between his legs. That was grand. I was wondering. He was running a bit late because he texted me he had to get it. So, Keane, thank you so much for being hungover, but for being as wonderful as you always are. And guys, for me, thank you so much. Make sure to like the channel, subscribe to the channel, share the video around, like us on Twitter, follow the guys on Twitter, all their social medias, follow Irish Football Fan TV. And we will see you next week with the next round of fixtures. I don't know what they are, but we'll find out in due course. All the best. See you next week. Absolute. Oh, I got rid of the thing. There we go. See you next week, guys. Absolute pleasure. See you.